To make a computer do something, you have to give it a detailed, precise instruction. For example, to rotate an image, you might give it an instruction like rotate image. To rotate 4 images, you'd have to give it 4 instructions: rotate image 1, rotate image 2, etc. But what if you had to rotate a bunch of images? Writing out dozens of separate instructions would get really tedious. Fortunately, you can use something called a for loop. A for loop allows you to tell the computer to do something over and over again with just a few lines of code. In JavaScript, a for loop looks something like this. There's 4 parts and some boilerplate words and symbols that tell JavaScript where to find things. How a for loop works is probably best explained with a flowchart. The first part is run once at the beginning. It creates a variable named I that represents the number 0, just like in math. Next, the second part is run, which checks if the number I represents is less than 10. If not, the loop exits. Otherwise, the code inside of the loop is run. Then the fourth part, which adds 1 to I, is run. Finally, the loop circles back and checks whether I is still less than 10. It is this cycle that forms the loop for which the for loop is named. One important thing to note is that each time the code inside the for loop runs, the variable I represents a different number. Thus, the first time through, the code will print 0, then 1, then 2, and so on up to and including 9. Going back to our example about rotating lots of images, here's how you'd do it with a for loop and without. Without the for loop, you'd literally have to write 100 lines of code to rotate all of the images. With a for loop, it's just a couple, although they are a bit more complicated. Basically, we start with a list of image numbers, then look at each number in the list. This is why the test is whether or not I is less than the length of the list of images. Each time the loop runs, we get the image number at position I in the list, and rotate that image. Next, we'll do a tutorial on Codecademy about for loops, and then you'll have a chance to use them in your very own program that lets you turn any image on a website into a cat.